Okay, so you don't even need $1,000. You can do this for $500. But it is mother scratching critical that you text me before you step into the Bank of America, because you're doing an external API call by shoving information into Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, because they don't want your positive information. They're happy where you are, which is on the outside. The reason you take $500 cash in is because you need to apply for a $300 credit line. And everybody who brings in $500 cash, not $50,000 cash, which some other people will do, $1,000 in cash. If they say no to 300, ask if you can deposit $500, hopefully that you pulled right out of their own ATM from your bank. Do you bank at like Wells, or where do you bank?
I bank at Bank of America and Capital One.
Perfect. You actually want to pull cash out of their own ATM. So that way, when they wonder where you got the $500 dirty dollars from, it came from inside your house. That is critical because you will ask them for a $300 line of credit. The reason you texted me is you do not leave until they say yes. Because once you leave, you are fudged, okay? So when they say no to your 300, they'll tell you politely, oh, sorry, we ran the API to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax and inside Bank of America. They're like, yeah, we're not fucking dealing with you. But if you then say, hey, Larry, they just turned me down, or they told me that you're on the premises. Hey, they told me that I'm going to be getting a card maybe in the mail, but that their processing center is down. That's basically a no. Once you get a hard no, you are fudged, okay? Like you're screwed. Which is why then you'll say, hey, my friend Larry asked me if I can give you $500 cash as a deposit against the $300 line of credit, period. They cannot say no to that. And that's why you force feed the API, because once you force that 500 in on the 300, then you will charge $15, and every Thursday you'll make sure that you pay it on time every month. And you'll start using your credit card as if it's a debit card. That's an API that you shove into Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax using duct tape called a postage stamp called PO Box 105281. It's an API that you run through the post office. What did you call the API housing again with the salesperson?
The endpoint.
Endpoint. Yeah. This is not...
Because usually APIs are access to computers, to machines, and not the mail.
Oh, trust me. Sometimes when they don't want your dirty penis in a three-way, okay, those two girls will lock you out, okay? So
that's how the Equifax algorithm works.
That's how the algorithm works. And that's also how a three-way works. What? And that's why when...
Reverse engineer.
Exactly. It's reverse engineering, which is the last Paul Graham post. Paul Graham just had a post on the first thing I did was reverse engineered something. This gives me goosebumps because it finally feels like the 3.5 to 4 million that you've made in the market is going to probably become 10.
I didn't think you're going to do this too much.
Oh, sure. You know what? I don't have any money. I lost it in next summer's boating accident. So Experian, thank you. Do you see how, like, talking about technical stuff, if you don't make a person laugh every 13th minute, okay, they tell you to fuck off.
Dude, you can talk normally with me. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to leave because I can't.
I can't help it. This is actually how I talk now. This is just how I talk all the time now.
I mean, mean, it's probably because you have to explain how to improve your credit score to teenage girls, right? That's probably the history of it.
Ever since sophomore year, I only 2 years ago stopped going to spring break. And spring break wasn't 1 week, okay? Spring break is actually 5 weeks. So for literally a half a year, which is 5 weeks, because it's like holy hell. It's literally knee deep in co-eds that are all like, hey, I've never actually been attracted to a tall Chinese guy, much less a dude who looks like he's over 30, maybe. And so you have that same conversation, because I'm gonna try to hook up with them, right? You have that same conversation over and over and over. You literally go insane. You literally could go insane from PTSD, which Dustin Coe talked about. I'm like, no. PTSD is actually a positive thing. So getting back to Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, when the two girls are starting to like kind of make out with each other, you need to just sit there quietly until they're done, because they'll let you know when it's time for you to jump back in. The alternative is 2 penises, 1 vagina, and that's horrendous. It's horrendous. Which is why 3-ways are actually a nightmare for me. So Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax together will get you... What?
Go ahead.
So those 3 together will help you ramp up to like a $40,000 credit line, and then you could play with like thinking about defaulting on a second mortgage. And by the way,
that's insane, dude. I can't get away with that. I don't have a green card.
You don't really want to default on it. You just want to know how to, because then you'll know the rules of monopoly, and then that way you'll be able to audit correctly, because the other side of the trade sometimes doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I told you about Josh Browder and DoNotPay.com, right?
Yeah, he's a Stanford kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hacker too. He's building all these things to like basically like file complaints and like file low-level court stuff.
Yeah, he started with parking tickets. He started with parking tickets using the mail. And so his API is literally this, where he realized that people wanted to email, and so he would send mail on people's behalf. This is force feeding, and now you kind of see, so you can do what Josh does for parking tickets and now the world, right? You can do that with like the British Virgin Islands bank accounts for Chinese firms that may or may not be getting audited as per, what was that language that they, PCAUB, was it?
PCAUB, something like that. I'm not even sure myself. So.
This is just off the top of my head because you said it yesterday night.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
It's just an auditing standard.
And that's what I do at a board meeting that I'm a shareholder at, or that's what I do at a subcommittee of a board that I don't own any shares in, but I could be getting warrants because I'm taking notes by making food, telling people stand-up jokes, and then maybe doubling their company using Superfielder. I know. It's always at a Four Seasons. It's always at a Ritz-Carlton. It's always at a Fairmont. Like, every meeting is exactly the same.
Yeah, corporate America is kind of sad.
That's their board meeting. Like, it starts always at like something polite. A fuck you board meeting is 7 a.m. But like a very polite board meeting is like 9:15 with like continental breakfast with shitty bagels, and nobody brings a toaster. You bring a toaster to a board meeting, you buy 2 of them on Amazon, people are impressed. And that's what an API is too, is bringing 2 toasters because the breakfast is cold.
Alright, I'm gonna probably do the card thing You told me tomorrow.
Why would you not?
Yeah, I need a credit score.
There's a dude who had a similar background, David Rorsheim. He's now the GM of Uber, but he's Australian. And when he landed in Palo Alto, I was EIR, entrepreneur in residence in Palo Alto or at Stanford. David Rorsheim was like, "Hey, I have something embarrassing." I'm like, "What? Like a hetero dude crush?" Because that shit happens all the time. He's like, "No. My credit score is actually 0 and I'm Australian." I'm like, "Bring $500 to 530 Lytton." And he's like, "Cash?" I'm like, "Yeah, cash." And so he ended up getting like this great FICO score. And then he actually met Travis at one of my events on campus. And so he became a billionaire because he was like humble enough as a VC at Draper to be like, "Hey Larry, I see you at all this Draper shit. Can you help me with my credit score?" Became a billionaire in a best asymmetric trade ever, which is
Uber shares.
Uber shares. Like Uber shares before as a non-employee co-founder. So a non-employee co-founder is Travis. A non-employee co-founder is Garrett, where the employee co-founder is Ryan, where the employee GM of a country co-founding Australia is David Rorsheim. So if it literally snowballs. Like it literally snowballs where he literally got $1 billion for doing his FICO score and not being 10 minutes late, being 15 minutes early, because I'm notorious for ghosting VCs 1 minute after the meeting is supposed to take place.
Interesting.
That's how to be the douchebag whisperer, which is how to wrangle douchebags to do something. So if I said 9 o'clock at the Bank of America at 5:30 Lytton and you don't show up until 9:01, if you're a founder, I mean, you could show up at fucking 9:30 because my house is across the street. But if you're a VC and you show up at 9:01, okay, like I'll just leave. The reason for that is, well, as you can guess, is they want whatever you had because you stood up for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it can be also like a little play. I don't know. It can get like a little game that this gets weird, right? Like, oh, do I reply to this email?
And that's where like young people who are starting fail because they want one-to-one communication like a girl. And like last time I checked, like, you know, I don't know if you've got a 34C bra where you can get away with 34C bra talk. Where and you're looking for one-to-one communication, are you high? Like, that's not how credit bureaus start. That's not how money becomes money. Like, it's asymmetric, but that's good because you want other people to not do the work so that way there's no competition in the middle. There's definitely no competition at the top. There's a little bit of competition at the bottom because of peer pressure.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody who's new to the room, I helped a millionaire. This is actually my favorite credit score, is helping a millionaire get a $300 line of credit so that way they could be a billionaire.
Oh, also you didn't elaborate on how David Rorsheim
Yeah.
a billionaire because of a line of credit.
Yeah. So this shit's real. I know it sounds like I'm joking, so if you're not from America, okay, maybe it's offensive to you. But when alpha males joke They are in flow state, FLOW, like Noam Chomsky flow, like the brain chemical norepinephrine flow. So when people are in flow, they're laughing, but this is real as fuck. And this guy, he was a VC. His name is David Rorsheim. He was a VC at my buddy's company, Draper Fisher Jurvetson. David Rorsheim wants to meet founders. And so I had this thing called the reverse VC party, where you pay me $2,000 and I will let you sell CS majors. So David Rorsheim was like, fuck you, I'm not paying $2,000. How about like $1,000? I'm like, look, you're a lowly GSB first year student at the local business school in Palo Alto. How about you give me $1,000, but if you show up on time, not only will I let you pitch, I'll give you all $1,000 back. And he was like, are you gonna fuck me? Which is what happens every time you do LCRRM, which is Larry Chang reverse rebate model. I charge you something exorbitant, you say something positive about me, and I'll give you all your money back. For those people in the room that are people that have met before, this is something that I've probably said a dozen times because it's worked every time 50,000 times. So David Rorsheim showed up. I gave him his money back. If you Google Larry Chang, David Rorsheim, reverse VC, you'll see him at Kauffman Foundation. I gave him back his money and he told everybody positive stuff about Larry Chang. Then he came to me and he's like, hey, my credit score isn't great. And maybe at the time he wasn't a millionaire, but at least he was at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford Business School. So he goes, hey, I have a problem. And I'm like, fuck, is this gonna be like my sister slept with you and like I didn't know that you had a sister and your sister's just hot. So I mean, I didn't know that she was your sister and I didn't say I'm not gonna sleep with your future sister. So I'm like, I had no idea what he was gonna say. And he goes, I need a credit line. I need credit in America because I'm postpaid on my cell phone. So I have a crap number because in Silicon Valley, it matters what your phone number is. And if you're on a postpaid, you're using a recycled number of hell. So I was like, look, you want to double pay the cell phone bill, and then you want to migrate from prepaid to postpaid. So you want to double pay it. Because when you apply for credit at Bank of America, you want to bring $500 in and apply for a $300 line of credit. And Bob, this actually applies to you. If your cell phone bill is like $80, you actually want to double pay it twice a month. So that way you'll have a legit Verizon postpaid. Is your cell phone Verizon or AT&T or what?
It's T-Mobile.
Perfect. Is it $80 or is it $100-ish?
I have no idea.
Perfect.
Family.
Oh, it's in your family?
Yeah, it's in my family because it's a family plan.
And now you're screwed because it's not hitting your credit bureau. And that's fine, but now that you know. So his was out of his family. So you know how you've been thinking about getting 2 iPhones, where I'm rocking 3 iPhones? So you actually want to get a second iPhone because that'll help you get a line of credit. Like it'll help you a ton.
Can I just use like other subscriptions like
AT&T. You want to get a Verizon. You probably want to get a second phone.
So rigged. What is wrong with this credit system?
You can either get mad at the $1 billion that you're going to make, or you can be a whiny little CS major from Cal. Which one did you want to go with?
A little bit of both, to be honest.
You can't put in just the tip.
All right. Hey, Iris. Sorry.
No, go on.
No, go ahead. Frank.
Oh, I'll remember what I'm going to say. I welcome interruptions because I remember everything. Go.
Okay, cool. Hi, Larry. I
Sure.
So, so regarding, so if my phone, if my phone is a bit bleepy, it's because there's an internet outage in my area. So
No problem.
please forgive me.
No forgiveness required.
Regarding regarding credit score and all that, so I've kind of noticed that people make a lot of comments about like, oh, you don't have to pay off more than 80% of what you owe on the card if you want to grow your credit. Um, and then there's all this theory about like, oh, don't pay off everything you have in the card all at once because it affects your credit score. Are those statements true?
They're partially true. This is what you want to do. You want to put pen to paper right now. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get ones on your credit report. You don't want an X on your credit report. An X is nothing happened. You didn't meet a girl and you didn't ask for her number. So one is you charged $15 and you paid $15. Your credit report makes no distinctions between a $15 payment on time or a $15,000 payment made on time. And so people that say, oh, you should owe $800, that's actually just trying to get you to pay $80 a month. Where you just want to pay $15 on time. You don't have to go into debt for that. And so ones are what you want. A 1 is credit code for an on-time payment. And you never want to be 30 days late, which is a 2. And a 9 is a charge-off. And you never want to trade interest payments for a higher credit score. You never want to pay money to get a high credit score. You want a high credit score while having 0 debt. You want to have a high credit score having zero interest paid. So when people say you should pay interest, they don't understand that a 1 is different from an X is different from a 2. So what's a 1? What's a 1, Tunde? So 1 is an on-time payment. Good job. Glad that you had that. So going back to the David Rorsheim story of $500, I told him to go to a Bank of America because he needs to get a line of credit for $300 against his own temporary non-resident, permanent Asian, permanent resident alien, whatever number, because they give you a temporary number before they give you a full-time number. So you want to build credit on that number, on that tax ID number, before they give you another tax ID number. And so the way to do that is you put $500 into Bank of America and they give you a $300 line of credit. Now you want to build a bunch of ones on your, 24 ones in a row will help both Bao and David Rorsheim get to a FICO score of 750 to like 805, depending. Now, to finish the story of what Bao asked is, then this all worked, surprisingly, because it works every time, okay? It works every time. If you have a cell phone in your name and you have now a credit card in your name, all of a sudden, inside of 2 years, you're gonna have a really high FICO score. And then a lot of people are like, how do I ruin it, Larry? They don't really ask that question, but I know they're thinking about ruining it, which is why money like Bitcoin at $800,000, that's a marshmallow test. That's a test that you will fail if you want to like spend money on Prosts or OnlyFans or getting another Shih Tzu that is incredibly exotic that you just really wanted to spend $50,000 on. Whatever it is, a private jet, my future boat that I'm gonna lose my Bitcoin on. Whatever that is, okay, it's gonna test you. Will you consume that? So then what happened was David Rorsheim decided not to overconsume, And then he was like, hey, I paid you $500 or I paid you $1,000 and you gave me that $1,000 back. You put the $500 in and I got a $300 credit line. What other cool stuff do you do? And then I was like, well, I host entrepreneurs on campus and you can pay to pitch, but you don't have to pay. You can just get your money back, but you can just come to these events. That's when he met Travis Kalanick, and it's on my YouTube. You'd think that there'd be 500 million views on my YouTube, right? No. Travis Kalanick meeting David Rorsheim has like 1,300 views. And the reason for that is because people, they kind of don't want to get to where they're going because they feel like a huge fraud. And they kind of don't want to like creep too much on my videos because they're like, I don't want to do that because I might start to have feelings for like a heterosexual dude as a hetero dude. I don't know why. I just read everything that Mark McCormick wrote and I quoted him as a person who's citing and sourcing Chapter 6, distribution, Chapter 5, mentorship, Chapter 2, treasure management, Chapter 2, treasure management, subchapter RMRMRE, subchapter PRPRPI, like all that stuff. Internal escrow, one-way letter of intent under LCRM. Like these are all his things. And I mention him because I'm not afraid of what people think that like Mark McCormick's my daddy. Like, no, Tom Chang's my dad. Like, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand the disservice or the disloyalty of having a mentor. Like, that doesn't make me less loyal to Tom Chang, my dad. That makes me more loyal because that was actually Tom Chang's book on his bookshelf. I just read it better than him because I'm competitive to him. Mark McCormick, What They Don't Teach at Harvard Business School.
Cool. Thank you, Larry.